Hello everyone and welcome to the Janus IDP demo. I will be your host today, Jason Fralick. So we have provisioned our Janus IDP demo and have logged into our OpenShift cluster. And to get to Backstage, the first thing we need to do is come over here to Networking and go to Routes, and we will scroll down until we see this Janus Dev route. And let's go ahead and click the link here. This will take us to Keycloak. We are going to log in with our GitHub credentials. Now, I have already authenticated with GitHub, so it's just going to take me right into Janus. If you haven't yet in your browser, it will prompt you for your GitHub credentials and then bring you straight to here. As you can see, we have our homepage that we've customized for Janus. We have some quick access links here on the front page, things in regards to the Janus community, some learning paths, dev tools, monitoring tools, etc. Feel free to take a look at all of that. Before we jump into creating a component and going through the golden path, I want to take an opportunity to describe our golden path architecture to you. So this is our golden path architecture. So like you saw, we logged in via Keycloak into Backstage. And once we pick our template and fill out the necessary information, it's going to create an Git app code repo, and it will also create an app manifest repo. So you'll see two repos in your Git org. This app manifest repo is used by Argo CD to really deploy the application and a Tecton pipeline in order to build and push the image for the application. Just for demo purposes, we are using the OpenShift image registry. So once you make a code commit to your app code repo, it will trigger the Tecton pipeline, which will start the build process. And until you do that, your Argo CD will be in an unhealthy state because the deployment of your application will be failing with an image pullback off until the pipeline succeeds. So one way to demonstrate that is to use OpenShift dev spaces, and we have a link to that right from the component page, which I will show you in a minute. And you can then launch the dev spaces, make a code edit, commit it, and it will kick off the Tecton pipeline. So in order to kick off our golden path or use our template, we can go to this Create tab here, and this will list all the available templates. In this specific Janus IDP demo, we only have the Quarkus service template here. This is a sample Quarkus microservice that's just a back-end Quarkus application. So I'm going to go ahead and choose this, and this will walk us through a form application to provide it with the necessary information to get us jump started in our development process. So the first thing you'll see here is a name of the application. I'm going to go ahead and leave it as the default name here as my Quarkus app. You can go ahead and change the group and artifact ID or the Java package name. I'm going to go ahead and take the defaults. We can give it a description if you like. And one thing you will need to provide here is the owner. And this is basically the team that will be working on it inside of Backstage. So this will, I'm just going to call this Quarkus team and go ahead and hit next. So next we're going to provide the image information. Like I mentioned previously, we're using the internal OpenShift registry for this demo. And by default, it gives us this image name. If you happen to change the name in the first step, you will need to modify this name. Basically, if you change the name, just change this portion of it that says My Quarkus App, leave the -dev, because what we need this to be is in the namespace / component ID format. So if you change this to something other than My Quarkus App, just replace that in both instances here. I'm going to go ahead and leave the image tag as latest, go on to the next step, and here it is asking for our GitHub organization where we'd like to put the information or the repos. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Janus IDP demo. And then for a repository, I'm going to just go ahead and call this Backstage Sample Quarkus App for my repository name. And I'm going to go ahead and hit Next. And it's going to go and say, okay, let's review and then possibly create if we'd like. So again, make sure whatever component name you gave it in the first step matches your image name here and here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit Create. And what this is doing is it is taking our information that we gave it and running it against a default app that we have. So that's what this generating component is, and it's basically templatizing all that information, and then it's going to publish our new app with the information that we gave it to our code repository. It's going to go ahead and register it with Backstage. So we will now have a component in our catalog. And the next thing it's going to do is generate the deployment resources. So again, take all the information that we provided to it with the templated resources that we have for Argo CD, and then it's going to take that and publish it to our GitOps repo with the in the same organization. And then finally, it will go ahead and create the Argo applications for us inside of Argo, which will kick off the deployment of the application, like we had mentioned in the architecture diagram. So now if we click on this Open Component in Catalog, we will see our new component open up in Backstage. Now the first time you do this, you're going to see a login required for GitHub. If you click this, it will pop up this window and log you in, so you get all of the GitHub information in these tiles here. I've done that before, so the first time you do it with your user, it may ask you to approve certain changes or certain permissions that it's requesting. So this brings you to the actual component that we just created. You can also get to this from the catalog page. You'll see our component listed here, and if you click this, it brings you to the same page. So in the overview tab, there's a couple of tiles that are listed here. Here's some links that we want to highlight, like the Code Ready Workspaces, which we'll get to in a minute. You have a link to the source code repository and some information about the component itself. Dependabot alerts here, security insights, GitHub pull request statistics, and some compliance reporting. Down here you'll also see the Argo CD overview, and as you can see, our status is synced. So the Argo CD has run. It's still in a processing health status. You may see this turn to unhealthy or degraded because we haven't built our application yet, so it's trying to do a deployment with an image that doesn't exist, so we're getting an image pulled back off. The next thing we can do is click on this Code Ready Workspaces link, and if we launch this, we're going to see this login with OpenShift. So you can log in with your OpenShift username. I'm going to log in with admin here. And it's going to ask you for authorization access. Just say allow selected permissions. And then it's going to launch Code Ready Workspaces. This could take a few minutes, being that it's the first time we're in here and it's got to create the workspace for the user and everything else. So while this is running, let's go back and take a look at some of the other tabs and tiles on the Backstage component. So if we look up here, we will see some more tabs that we can highlight. The GitHub issues, if we create any issues in our repo that was created for us, they will show up here. Same thing with these GitHub pull requests. This CI/CD will show, right now it shows the Git actions or Git workflows. We are using Tecton, which we'll show in a minute. This Argo CD history will also show the history of your Argo CD. So any syncs and things like that and deployments and all that will show here. This Kubernetes plugin will list all the information going on with your Kubernetes cluster. As you can see here, we have the infrastructure that was used to set up our app that was created. There's also a pod here that is in an error state, which, like we mentioned before, it's having trouble finding the image because we haven't built the pipeline yet. And also there's the topology plugin that will show the topology of your application. Again, it's in a red state because we haven't built it yet. And then there's security insights that you can set up for the repo inside of Git to show you dependabot alerts. There's APIs, dependencies, which are dependencies inside of Backstage, and then any tech docs that you may have for this application as well. So as you can see, our dev spaces has started and completed. The first time you launch it, you will see this message. You can say, yes, trust the authors, because we created it. And as you can see, here is the repo of the application that we just created. So we have tests in here, we have the main source files, we have Docker files. This catalog info is the information that Backstage needs to register it as a component. We have our pom.xml file, as you can see, with the group IDs and artifact IDs that we put in from the template. And we also have a README. So for simplicity, we can just go into our app and add a sample text to the README and go ahead and save it. And then we can go to this source control tab and stage our changes, give it a message, and commit our changes. Now, we are committing directly to the main branch. You could easily just create a pull request and go that way. For simplicity reasons, I'm pushing directly to main. So the push went through, and now we can go and check our Tecton pipeline. So here we are back at our OpenShift console. We can go to projects, And if we scroll down, you will see the MyCorcus app dev. So this was the name I gave it. If I click this and go to pipelines, you can now see that our pipeline is running that we created. Like we mentioned, there is a Tekton plugin for Janus that is coming soon. Once that's available, we will add it to the demo. So for the meantime, you can just switch to this and see the status of your pipeline. So as of now, it's a fairly simple pipeline. We just clone, package, and build and push the image. Obviously, you could add in other steps in your golden path to do any sort of static code analysis or container image scanning, things of that nature. So as you can see, our pipeline just succeeded. So we'll now switch back to Backstage to look at our Argo CD and topology plugins. So as you can see, we are back in Backstage on our Overview tab. And if we look at the Argo CD overview, our health status now gives us the nice green healthy status. If we go to our Kubernetes tab, you can see we have no pods with errors now. And if we drill down into our deployment, we see our pod here with a status of OK. We can actually click this and get some more information about it, even look at the YAML. Also, if we go to our topology plugin, we now see our nice blue circle around our pod indicating that everything is up and running and good to go. Thank you for allowing me to be your host for this Janus IDP demo. Check out our Janus website, blog, and GitHub pages for the latest information on what's going on around Janus. Keep an eye on this demo as we'll be continually updating it as new plugins and features are available. Thank you.